Part 1. Nobody in Red Gum Flats ever expected to stop an alien invasion. Mostly because nobody in Red Gum Flats expected anything before 10 in the morning unless it involved cattle, broken machinery, missing tools, or somebody doing something incredibly stupid after saying, "Watch this." It was already hot. Not normal hot. The kind of Australian hot that made the air look angry. The sun had barely climbed over the horizon and already everything felt like it wanted to catch fire. Flies swarmed in organized formations. The dirt was dry. The wind was useless. And every sheet of metal in town looked like it was preparing to burn the fingerprints off anyone foolish enough to touch it. Mick Turner sat on his front veranda wearing faded shorts and a singlet older than most social media platforms. A mug of tea rested in one hand. A cigarette hung from the corner of his mouth. Beside him lay a blue heeler named Rusty. Rusty had bitten 3 council workers, chased 2 police cars, and once stole a butcher's apron. He considered all 3 achievements. Mick took a sip of tea. Rusty snored. Then the sky split open. A dark shape appeared above the clouds. It wasn't an aircraft. It wasn't a storm. It looked like a giant black spear descending from space. Mick watched it silently. The object drifted lower, and lower, and lower, until it disappeared behind the old football field on the edge of town. Mick took another sip. "Sarah," he called. A voice came from inside. "What?" Something landed near the footy field. A pause. Another one of Dave's drones. Nah. Bigger. Much bigger. Sarah stepped outside carrying a dish towel. She looked toward the horizon. Before she could speak, a second ship emerged from the clouds. Then a third. Then a fourth. The ground trembled. Sarah blinked. Mick blinked. Rusty opened one eye. "Aliens?" Sarah asked. "Looks like it." There was a long silence. Then a bright beam shot across the sky. It vaporized the family mailbox. The mailbox exploded. Pieces scattered across the yard. Now that mailbox wasn't ordinary. It had survived floods, bushfires,
un tracteur accident,
and one unfortunate encounter with a drunk tourist from Sydney. Mick slowly lowered his tea. Sarah folded her arms. "They just blew up your mailbox." "Yep." "You gonna do something about it?" Mick thought for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone. "Yeah." He dialed a number. "Dave." "Yeah." "Aliens are here." A pause. "Real aliens." "Yep." "Space aliens." "Yep." "Hostile." "They blew up my mailbox." Another pause. Then Dave replied, "I'll bring the ute." The Tsar Dominion had conquered 21 star systems. They had crushed empires, destroyed fleets, subjugated entire civilizations. Their commanders considered themselves masters of warfare. Unfortunately, none of their military simulations included Australia. Commander Zareth stood at the front of the landing force. His armor gleamed black beneath the harsh sunlight. Behind him stood 40 elite soldiers. Every weapon was loaded. Every formation perfect. Every movement disciplined. The commander surveyed the empty landscape. Primitive world. Primitive settlement. Primitive inhabitants. This operation would be completed within hours. He raised a hand. "Secure the area." The soldiers spread out. One stopped suddenly. "Commander." Zareth turned. "What is it?" The trooper pointed toward a nearby kangaroo. The animal stood beside a fence chewing grass. The scanner displayed minimal threat. Small brain. Plant eater. No weapons.
no armor,
No technology. The trooper relaxed. Harmless local wildlife. The kangaroo looked at him. The trooper looked back. The kangaroo stopped chewing. Then it stood upright. The trooper frowned. It appears agitated. Zareth sighed. "It is an animal." The kangaroo took a step forward. Then another. Then another. The trooper activated his scanner. The kangaroo punched him. Not kicked. Punched. The soldier flew backward through the air. He hit a fence post. Then a water trough. Then the ground. The scanner exploded. Silence filled the landing zone. The remaining soldiers stared. The kangaroo stared back. One alien slowly raised a hand. Commander. Yes. The herbivore appears hostile. The kangaroo flexed. Another kangaroo emerged from nearby bushes. Then another. One of them looked personally offended. Zareth watched them carefully. After a long moment he spoke. Update the database. New classification, Commander. Zareth never took his eyes off the kangaroos. Everything on this planet is hostile. By 9 o'clock the entire town knew. Not because the government warned them. Not because the military arrived. Because Dave drove through town at dangerous speed yelling through his window. Aliens are here, you useless bastards. That was enough. Within 20 minutes the town mobilized. There was no command center. No strategy room.
No uniforms.
No military training. What they did have was 12 utes, 4 dirt bikes, 2 tractors, 1 quad bike, a retired mechanic named Barry, and several people with extremely strong opinions. Mick arrived at the pub first. Dave arrived second. Everyone else followed. Inside, people argued over what to do. Call the army. Call the police. Call the news. Call somebody important. Then the front doors exploded inward. 6 armored aliens marched into the pub. Every conversation stopped. The alien captain stepped forward. His translator crackled.
Humans.
You are now subjects of the Tsar Dominion. Submit immediately. Nobody answered. A country song continued playing on the jukebox. The alien captain raised his weapon. We will destroy all resistance. Big Tommy looked up from his beer. Did that squid just threaten us? The captain fired into the ceiling. Plaster rained down. Unfortunately, some of it landed directly inside Big Tommy's drink. The room became silent. Not scared silent. Pub silent. The dangerous kind. Big Tommy slowly looked into his beer. Then at the alien. Then back into his beer. Finally he spoke. You owe me another one. The alien captain blinked. Behind the counter, pub owner Jenny reached down. When her hand came back up, she was holding a cricket bat. The room collectively stood. The captain suddenly realized something important. These humans were not surrendering. And that was when Jenny smiled. Wrong pub, mate. Part 2. What happened next would later be described very differently depending on who was telling the story. The local newspaper called it a community response. The police called it an unusual public disturbance. The aliens called it the beginning of the nightmare. Jenny swung first. The cricket bat connected with the lead alien's knee armor. The captain folded like a camping chair. Before he even hit the floor, the rest of the pub erupted. A bar stool flew through the air. Somebody threw a pool ball. A miner launched a half-eaten meat pie with surprising accuracy. The pie struck an alien directly in the face. The soldier froze. Nobody knew if it was because of the impact or because his scanner was trying to identify what was inside the pie. Either way, he went down. Mick grabbed Ocher. Big Tommy grabbed an alien. The alien immediately regretted existing. One soldier attempted to retreat toward the kitchen. The cook greeted him with a frying pan. Another tried to hide behind the poker machines. An 80-year-old regular named Frank hit him repeatedly with a newspaper while yelling, "You picked the wrong town, Sunshine." The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. When it ended, 6 elite Tsar soldiers lay scattered throughout the pub. One was unconscious under a table. Another was trapped inside a booth. A third was somehow stuck in a vending machine. Nobody knew how. Not even the alien. Jenny stood behind the bar breathing heavily. Her cricket bat now had a dent in it. She pointed at the surviving captain. Who's paying for the ceiling? The captain stared at her. Then he fainted. Commander Zareth watched the entire disaster through a helmet camera feed. He stood aboard his command ship orbiting Earth. The recording shook violently. Furniture flew everywhere.
Humans skramat.
Aliens screamed. At one point, the camera showed an elderly man throwing a sandwich. The sandwich hit a soldier. The soldier fell down a staircase. Zareth turned slowly toward his intelligence officer. You said this settlement was undefended. It is, Commander. Zareth pointed at the screen. Big Tommy was using one alien as a weapon against another alien. Then explain that. The officer studied the footage. After several uncomfortable seconds he answered. Local customs. Zareth closed all four eyes. Meanwhile, another alien squad received orders to secure a nearby water source. This sounded reasonable. Unfortunately, the water source was a river. And rivers in Australia occasionally contain problems. The squad approached carefully. Scanners showed no immediate threats. One young soldier knelt near the water's edge. He lowered a probe. The device beeped. Commander, I am detecting. The river exploded. A crocodile erupted from the water. The alien disappeared instantly. The remaining soldiers opened fire. The crocodile ignored them. The crocodile had spent millions of years becoming a perfect killing machine. It was not impressed by technology. The creature rolled back into the water with its prize. Silence followed. One soldier slowly lowered his weapon. Was that military personnel? Another soldier shook his head. I believe that was wildlife. A second crocodile surfaced nearby. The entire squad retreated immediately. On a nearby hill, Dave and his friend Pete watched everything through binoculars. Pete scratched his beard. That's old Bruce. Dave nodded. Big fella. The crocodile surfaced again. Pete watched thoughtfully. Should we help? Dave considered the question. Who? Neither man had an answer. By midday, things had become significantly worse for the invaders. One patrol encountered a swarm of flies. Not normal flies. Australian flies. The sort that viewed personal space as a myth. Within minutes, the aliens were slapping themselves, each other, and occasionally random objects. Their formation collapsed. Two soldiers accidentally walked into a cactus. One somehow fell into a ditch. Another became trapped inside a bush. Command eventually received a distress signal. The message contained very little useful information. Mostly screaming. And several requests for fire. Elsewhere, an alien recon drone flew over the countryside. The drone represented the very best technology the Tsar Dominion possessed. Advanced sensors. Stealth systems. Military-grade targeting software. A wedge-tailed eagle spotted it. The eagle immediately decided it belonged to him. The bird attacked. The drone vanished from radar 30 seconds later. The last recorded image showed a giant eagle carrying millions of credits worth of military hardware into the distance. Command listed it as combat loss. At 1 o'clock, another alien unit attempted to establish a communications relay beneath a large eucalyptus tree. The operation proceeded smoothly. For almost 7 minutes. Then one soldier disturbed an ant nest. The resulting panic destroyed the relay station. The final transmission reached orbit briefly. Commander, we are under attack by extremely organized ground forces. Zareth frowned. Describe them. Very small. How small? The transmission ended with screaming. The commander was beginning to develop concerns. Not serious concerns. Just enough concerns to make him uncomfortable. His fleet had conquered civilizations with orbital defenses, planetary shields, battle fleets, artificial intelligence. Yet somehow his soldiers kept losing fights to wildlife, insects, and civilians. The situation became even stranger when a new report arrived. The officer reading it sounded confused. Commander, another squad has barricaded itself inside a public restroom. Why? The officer hesitated. Then he displayed a photograph. A giant huntsman spider sat above the doorway. The room became silent. Zareth stared at the image. The spider stared back. One trapped soldier appeared on screen. His voice trembled. It knows we are here. The spider moved one leg. Every alien inside the restroom screamed. The transmission ended. Zareth rubbed his temples. Back in town, the people of Red Gum Flats gathered outside the pub. More vehicles kept arriving. Farmers, mechanics, miners, truck drivers, retirees. One confused tourist. Everyone had heard the same thing. Aliens had invaded. And apparently they weren't doing very well. Mick stood beside his ute. Dave leaned against the tray. Jenny rested her cricket bat across one shoulder. Rusty sat nearby looking pleased with himself despite not actually doing anything yet. A cloud of dust appeared on the horizon. Everyone turned. Several alien troop carriers rolled toward town. More soldiers. More weapons. More armor. The invaders had finally decided to take the situation seriously. The vehicles stopped. Dozens of soldiers emerged. Energy weapons glowed. The alien commander stepped forward. His translator activated.
Humans.
This is your final warning. Nobody moved. The commander pointed toward the pub. You have attacked military personnel. Big Tommy nodded. Fair. You have interfered with lawful conquest. Dave frowned. That sounds made up. The alien ignored him. You will surrender immediately. Mick took a sip from his drink.
No.
The commander blinked.
No. No.
The alien looked genuinely confused. Most civilizations surrendered eventually. That was how conquest worked. But these humans were acting like someone had interrupted a barbecue. The commander tried again. You do understand we possess superior technology? Jenny nodded. Probably. Superior weapons? Likely. Superior military strength? Maybe. The alien spread his arms. Then why are you resisting? The crowd became quiet. Mick looked around, then pointed toward the pub. You threatened the pub. Several locals nodded. Mick pointed toward Rusty. You nearly hit the dog. More nodding. Then he pointed toward his damaged mailbox. And you blew up my mailbox. The crowd murmured angrily. The alien commander looked horrified. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he realized these people were not fighting for survival. They were fighting because they were annoyed. And somehow that was much worse. Just then, a loud engine roared somewhere behind the town. Everyone turned toward the sound. A massive cloud of dust rose into the air. Dave slowly smiled. Oh good. The alien commander frowned. What is that? Dave climbed onto his ute and looked toward the approaching dust cloud. His grin widened. That's Barry. Who is Barry? Nobody answered immediately, because even the locals looked slightly nervous. Whatever was coming was enormous. And judging by the noise, Barry had brought something special. Part 3. The noise grew louder. And louder. And louder. Even the alien soldiers looked uneasy. The ground began to shake beneath their feet. Dust rolled across the road like an approaching storm. Commander Zareth narrowed his eyes. What is coming? Nobody answered. Mostly because nobody was completely sure. Then the machine appeared. It emerged from the dust cloud with all the grace of a charging rhinoceros. It was a giant mining excavator. The thing was enormous. Its bucket alone was larger than some alien landing craft. Its engine roared like an angry volcano. And sitting inside the cab was Barry. Barry was 63 years old. He wore sunglasses, steel cap boots, and the expression of a man who had absolutely no business operating heavy machinery during an alien invasion. Yet here he was. Barry leaned out the window. Move. The alien commander blinked. What? I said move. The excavator kept rolling forward. The alien stood frozen. One soldier checked his scanner. The machine weighed over 800 tons. The scanner briefly displayed the word. Why? The alien commander pointed his weapon. Stop this machine. Barry laughed. The excavator did not stop. Several soldiers opened fire. Energy blasts struck the steel body. Nothing happened. The machine had spent 20 years surviving rocks, explosions, bad maintenance, and contractors. Laser fire barely got its attention. The giant bucket swung. 3 soldiers vanished into a pile of dirt. Another squad scattered. The excavator continued forward. Slowly. Relentlessly. Like an angry mountain. One alien screamed into his communicator. Commander, the humans have deployed a mobile fortress. Barry heard him. It's not a fortress, he shouted. It's Tuesday. Commander Zareth stared at the battlefield feed. His eye twitched. A condition previously believed impossible for his species. The mining machine was pushing his soldiers across a highway. Several troops had abandoned their positions entirely. One had climbed a tree. Another was hiding inside a drainage pipe. A third was pretending to be unconscious. The commander turned toward his intelligence officer. Why do civilians own machines this large? The officer checked the database. Apparently they dig holes. How many holes? The officer hesitated. Commander, Australia is mostly holes. Zareth closed his eyes. That somehow explained nothing. As the invasion continued, the Tsar Dominion discovered another unpleasant truth. Australian civilians did not separate work from warfare. At a nearby mine site, another alien squad attempted to secure what they believed was a strategic military facility. The assumption seemed reasonable. Huge vehicles, warning signs, explosives, security fences, workers wearing identical uniforms. Surely this was important. The alien commander marched toward the side office. Inside sat 6 miners eating lunch. One looked up, then returned to his sandwich. The alien commander burst through the door. This facility now belongs to the Tsar Dominion. Nobody reacted. One miner slowly chewed. Another took a sip of coffee. Finally, a woman named Karen stood up. Karen managed site operations. More importantly, Karen had spent 15 years dealing with contractors. Nothing frightened her anymore. She looked at the aliens, then at her clipboard, then back at the aliens. Have you signed in? The commander blinked. What? The visitor register. We are invaders. Karen nodded. Okay. She pointed toward a desk. Fill out the paperwork. The commander stared. We are taking control of this facility. Not without induction training. The room became silent. The alien leader slowly lowered his weapon. Something about Karen felt dangerous. Administratively dangerous. Karen clicked her pen. Hut. The alien touched his helmet. Yes.
Style cap boards.
Yes. Emergency contact. The alien hesitated. Karen made note. Thought so. The miners continued eating. The alien commander radioed orbit. Commander, we have encountered resistance. What kind? There was a long pause. Then the answer came. Paperwork. Elsewhere, the invasion somehow became worse. An alien patrol entered a cattle property. The mission seemed simple. Secure food resources. Establish a temporary base. Conduct reconnaissance. Instead, they met Bruce. Bruce was a bull. Bruce weighed nearly a ton. Bruce disliked strangers. Bruce especially disliked strangers carrying laser rifles. The lead alien approached carefully. His scanner identified the creature. Agricultural livestock. Minimal threat. The bull lowered his head. The scanner immediately updated itself. Bruce charged. The alien squad scattered in every direction. One soldier jumped over a fence. Another climbed onto a water tank. A third abandoned his weapon entirely. Bruce destroyed all tactical cohesion in less than 12 seconds. Military academies would later study the incident. Nobody could explain it. By late afternoon, Commander Zareth had lost patience. Enough small defeats. Enough reports involving animals. The humans clearly required a demonstration of power. So he deployed the Titan. The Titan was the most advanced combat walker in the Tsar Dominion. 3 stories tall. Heavy armor. Missile systems. Energy cannons. Shield generators. The machine had crushed rebellions across 6 worlds. Its arrival usually ended wars. The giant walker stepped into Red Gum Flats. Windows rattled. The ground shook. People emerged from buildings to stare. The Titan towered above everything. For the first time all day, the town became quiet. The alien commander smiled. Finally, a sensible reaction. The Titan's loudspeakers activated.
Humans.
The voice echoed through town. You face the power of the Tsar Dominion. The giant machine raised its weapons. Your resistance ends now. The townspeople looked at it. Then looked at each other. Finally, Big Tommy raised a hand. Question. The speaker crackled. What? Does it run on diesel? Several locals nodded. That seemed important. The alien pilot frowned.
No.
Tommy looked disappointed. Shame. Another voice shouted, "What's the fuel economy?" A third person yelled, "Can it tow a boat?" The alien pilot stared at the crowd. Nothing in military training prepared him for this. Then Rusty appeared. The blue healer trotted into the street. The Titan scanners immediately locked onto him. Threat assessment. Minor animal. Risk level. Negligible. Rusty barked. The Titan ignored him. Rusty barked again. Louder. Still no response. The dog took this personally. He sprinted forward. The crowd watched. The Titan watched. The pilot laughed. Then Rusty reached the walker's leg. And bit it. Warning alarms exploded inside the cockpit. Power fluctuations appeared across every screen. The pilot stopped laughing. "Commander." "Yes." "The animal has damaged a control cable." Silence. Then. "What?" "The animal appears. Angry." Rusty bit harder. More alarms activated. Hydraulic pressure dropped. Warning lights flashed red. The giant machine staggered. One massive foot stepped backward. Unfortunately, there was an open drainage trench behind it. The leg sank. The Titan lurched sideways and crashed directly into Mick's ute. Not much damage. Just a dent. A small dent. But every local saw it happen. And every local knew exactly what came next. The aliens did not. Mick slowly looked at the dent. Then at the Titan. Then back at the dent. His face became completely expressionless, which was somehow terrifying. Sarah noticed immediately. "Oh no." Dave noticed too. "Oh, that's bad." Even Rusty stopped chewing. The Titan pilot looked confused. "Commander, the humans are advancing." Zareth appeared on the communication channel. "Excellent." The pilot relaxed. "Perhaps they are surrendering." The commander watched the approaching crowd. Mick opened his toolbox. Jenny lifted her cricket bat. Barry climbed down from the excavator carrying a wrench the size of a sword. Dozens of locals began walking toward the Titan. None looked friendly. Zareth suddenly felt uneasy. "Pilot." "Yes, Commander." "Retreat." The pilot blinked. "What?" "Retreat immediately." The pilot looked at the advancing civilians. Then at the damaged ute. Then back at the civilians. For the first time all day, he understood. The Titan had made a terrible mistake. It had touched somebody's vehicle. And now the entire town was coming for revenge. Part 4. The Titan pilot tried to reverse. He really did. Unfortunately, two important problems existed. The first problem was the drainage trench. The second problem was Rusty. The blue healer was still attached to the machine. Somewhere inside the cockpit, warning alarms screamed continuously. Outside, Rusty growled like a creature personally offended by technology. The Titan took another step backward. Its damaged leg slipped. The machine tilted. The pilot grabbed the controls. "Commander. Stability failure. Recover the walker." "I'm trying." The Titan leaned farther. Metal groaned. Hydraulics burst. Then 800 tons of advanced alien engineering collapsed sideways into the middle of town. The impact shook windows. Dust exploded everywhere. Silence followed. For approximately 3 seconds. Then the townspeople cheered. Commander Zareth watched in horror. The Titan was worth more than several colonies. Entire wars had been won with machines like that. One had just been defeated by a drainage ditch and an angry dog. The commander stared at the screen. Nobody dared speak. Finally, one officer cleared his throat. "Commander." Zareth slowly turned toward him. "Yes." "What should we report as the cause of destruction?" The officer genuinely seemed uncertain. Zareth looked back at the footage. The report would be impossible to explain. Eventually he sighed. "Mechanical failure." The officer nodded gratefully. That sounded much better than the truth. Meanwhile, the people of Red Gum Flats had discovered something wonderful. Alien technology could be stolen. The moment the Titan fell, locals swarmed it. They climbed over armor plates. opened access panels, pulled wires, removed parts. Several people had absolutely no idea what they were taking. That did not stop them. If it wasn't nailed down, it disappeared. If it was nailed down, somebody fetched tools. Barry emerged carrying an alien power cell. Dave found 3 energy rifles. Big Tommy somehow acquired an entire control console. Nobody knew how he got it out. Nobody asked. Inside the damaged cockpit, the pilot finally opened the escape hatch. Immediately, 20 people looked down at him. The pilot slowly raised his hands. I surrender.
Mick no did.
Good choice. While this was happening, the Tsar Dominion launched a second phase of the invasion. Air support. 3 advanced attack craft entered the atmosphere. Fast, deadly, and heavily armed. The pilots received simple instructions. Destroy resistance. Avoid ground engagement. Restore control. The mission sounded easy. Unfortunately, Australia was involved. Several kilometers away, a farmer named Wally was repairing a fence. Wally noticed the alien aircraft. He watched them for several seconds. Then he looked toward his crop-dusting plane. The aircraft was old. Very old. Nobody could remember when it was built. Some people doubted science could explain why it still flew. Wally finished his cigarette. Bit rude. 5 minutes later he was airborne. The alien pilots immediately detected him. A warning symbol appeared. Primitive aircraft approaching. The flight leader frowned. Is it armed? His wingman checked. No weapons detected. The flight leader relaxed. Then Wally flew directly over them and released an entire tank of agricultural chemicals. The alien cockpits disappeared inside a giant cloud. Warning alarms erupted instantly. Sensors failed. Navigation systems malfunctioned. Pilots started coughing. One fighter spun sideways. Another entered an uncontrolled dive. The third climbed sharply, trying to escape. What? The transmission ended. Wally flew past. He waved cheerfully. Then he spoke into his radio. That's for scaring the cattle. 2 fighters crashed. The third fled into orbit. Its final report described Earth as possessing chemical warfare aircraft piloted by unstable farmers. By late afternoon, the invasion had become a disaster. Every new report somehow sounded worse than the last. One squad had been chased by wild pigs. Another had been robbed by a flock of cockatoos. A recon team became trapped inside a shed after discovering a large snake near the door. They remained there for 4 hours. Command classified them as missing. Technically, they weren't missing. They were simply too afraid to leave. The snake appeared perfectly happy with the arrangement. Commander Zareth finally made a decision. Enough remote commands. Enough failed operations. Enough humiliation. He would handle this personally. The commander armed himself, activated his battle armor, and boarded a transport shuttle. If Earth wanted a fight, it would get one. The shuttle landed just outside Red Gum Flats. The remaining alien soldiers assembled around him. What remained of them, anyway? Their once perfect armor was scratched and dented. Some limped. Several were covered in dust. One still had a bird feather stuck in his helmet. Another refused to go near trees anymore. Zareth chose not to ask. The answers would probably make things worse. The commander stepped forward. Ahead of him stood the people of Red Gum Flats. They had gathered near the pub. Me, Sarah, Jenny, Dave, Barry, Big Tommy, and dozens of others. Rusty sat proudly at the front. He was chewing a piece of stolen alien armor. Zareth looked at them, then activated his external speakers. His voice thundered across the road. I am Commander Zareth. Nobody reacted. I have conquered worlds. Still nothing. I have defeated armies. A few people yawned. The commander felt personally insulted. You stand before the greatest military power in this sector. Big Tommy raised a hand. Zareth gritted his teeth. What? Do you ever get tired of hearing yourself talk? Several locals laughed. The commander ignored them. You humans are primitive. Mick shrugged. Probably. You are disorganized. Definitely. You are irrational. Dave nodded. Fair. Zareth pointed dramatically toward the town. Your animals are insane. Nobody argued. Your weather is hostile. Again, nobody argued. Your food appears to be made entirely from meat and confusion. Jenny looked offended. Leave the pies out of this. The commander took a deep breath, then finally asked the question that had been bothering him all day. Why are you fighting so hard? The crowd became quiet. For a moment nobody spoke. Then Mick stepped forward. He pointed toward the damaged remains of his mailbox. Then toward the pub. Then toward Rusty. You blew up my mailbox. The crowd nodded. You threatened the pub. More nodding. And you tried shooting the dog. Every face hardened. Even Zareth took a step backward. The commander slowly realized something. This invasion had never been about strategy, or military objectives, or planetary conquest. The humans were angry because the aliens had broken local rules, and somehow that made them impossible to intimidate. Before he could respond, a loud engine roared somewhere behind the crowd. Everyone turned. A massive shape emerged from behind the pub. Zareth stared. The commander felt his stomach drop, because somebody had repaired the captured Titan, or at least part of it, and they had painted enormous words across the front armor. Rusty's chew toy. The giant machine's lights flickered on. Smoke puffed from several places. The engine sounded deeply unhealthy. Dave looked proudly at the creation. It only took us 2 hours. Barry nodded. Would have been quicker if Tommy stopped stealing parts. The alien commander stared in disbelief. The humans had captured advanced military technology, then turned it into a joke, and judging by the way it was moving toward him, the joke was about to become very personal. Part 5. Commander Zareth stared at the machine coming toward him. It was no longer a Titan in any meaningful military sense. It had become something else entirely. Panels were missing. Half the weapon systems were either replaced or rerouted through things that definitely should not have been connected to weapon systems. Someone had welded a toolbox to the side. Someone else had added a flag that read, "Do not touch the Ute." And across the front, in uneven paint, the words still stood out clearly. Rusty's chew toy. Inside the cockpit, Mick was driving. Barry was shouting instructions. Dave was holding a spanner like it was a steering wheel. Big Tommy was pressing buttons and hoping for the best. None of them had training. All of them had confidence. Zareth took a slow step back. This is unacceptable. The machine took a step forward. Dust rose around its feet. A loud scraping sound echoed through its damaged joints. The commander raised his weapon. Fire. The remaining alien soldiers hesitated. Fire everything. Energy blasts struck the Titan. Nothing meaningful happened. A small panel fell off. Barry leaned out of the cockpit window. Oi. Watch the paint. The machine accelerated slightly. Not fast. Just enough to be worrying. Zareth activated his communicator. Deploy emergency strike protocols. Nothing responded quickly enough. The Titan swung one massive arm. It missed Zareth by several meters, but destroyed a troop carrier behind him. The soldiers paused. Nobody had actually ordered that. It just happened. Mick's voice came over an external speaker. You done yet? Zareth froze. The Titan tilted slightly as Dave adjusted something incorrectly. Because we're kind of busy. Barry added. Yeah, we've got a barbecue later. That was the moment Zareth understood. This was not a war to them. This was inconvenience. And he had become part of it. Elsewhere, orbiting above Earth, the Tsar Dominion Council watched the feed in silence. Again, the screen showed chaos. A mining excavator pushing alien troops into a ditch. A dog disabling a war machine. A pub crew dismantling elite soldiers. A farmer chasing aircraft out of the sky. And now a stolen Titan being used like a moving insult. One elder finally spoke. This cannot be real. Another replied. The footage is authenticated. Silence returned. The high strategist leaned forward. How many planetary defenses remain on Earth? The intelligence officer hesitated. None, Commander. Military fleets. None. Orbital weapons? None detected. The strategist blinked slowly. And yet we are losing. Nobody answered. Because there was no good answer. Back on the ground, the final phase of the conflict began. Zareth ordered a full retreat. The remaining ships lifted off. But too late. Barry had already modified part of the Titan's targeting system. Nobody was sure what he had done. Barry wasn't sure either. But it worked. The Titan locked onto retreating alien ships. And fired. Not accurately. Not safely. But enthusiastically. One ship spun out of control. Another vanished behind a cloud of debris. The third immediately changed course. And ran. The Tsar Dominion fleet began withdrawing from orbit. Not in formation. Not strategically. Just leaving. On the ground, Zareth stood alone. His armor was cracked. His authority gone. His army scattered. And in front of him stood Mick. Still calm. Still unimpressed. Still holding a drink. Zareth lowered his weapon. "Explain this," he said quietly. Mick thought for a moment. Then shrugged. "You started it." That was it. No grand speech. No declaration of victory. Just a simple fact. Zareth stared at him. "You realize we are an interstellar empire?"
Mick nodded.
"Yeah." "And you are a small town?" "Yep." "And you defeated us?" Mick took a sip. "Looks like it." A long silence followed. Then Zareth asked the question he had been avoiding since the beginning. "How?" Mick gestured vaguely around him. "You touched the pub." Zareth blinked. "That is your explanation." Dave called out from behind him. "You also hit the dog." Rusty barked in agreement. Barry added. "And you dented the ute." Zareth stood completely still. For the first time in his life, he had no tactical response.
No doctrine.
No strategy. Nothing. Just confusion. Hours later, the Tsar Dominion formally ended the invasion. The official report labeled Earth as non-compliant hazardous world with extreme civilian unpredictability. A subcategory was added. Australia, do not engage under any circumstances. Back in Red Gum Flats, life returned to normal almost immediately. By Monday morning, the pub was open. The pies were warm. The flies were back on duty. Barry had already started modifying leftover alien tech into a better air conditioner. Dave was bragging about driving the Titan. Big Tommy was arguing that he technically piloted it most of the time. Jenny mounted an alien communicator behind the bar as a decoration. Rusty slept on a piece of alien armor like it was his throne. Mick sat on his veranda again. Same mug. Same chair. Same dog. Sarah walked out and looked at the quiet street. "So," she said, "that was aliens."
Mick nodded.
"Yep." "Think they'll come back?" Mick took a sip. "Not after the pub." Sarah laughed. Rusty opened one eye. Somewhere far above, the galaxy updated its records. Earth, avoided. Australia, permanently quarantined. And Red Gum Flats? Red Gum Flats remained exactly what it had always been. A place where nothing important was supposed to happen. Until it did. And somehow won.